Welcome to a over-analysis of Adventure, the game that I made in 2018 in middle school. This is going to be an overview of everything that I'm going to talk about today. So first I'll give an explanation of the game. If you haven't seen the video that I released recently talking about it in more of, a philosophical context, I talked about it there. But then I'll give an overview of all of the content in the game. So all the basic items, all the basic enemies, and then the two bosses, the Muttering Cultist and the Imaginary Dragon. Now, I didn't mention the Muttering Cultist because it wasn't that important to the video, but I'll get into that later. Then I'll go over the strategy, if you were to play, what the strategy is, and my thoughts on everything afterwards. So I won't be sharing my thoughts on anything till the very end, so that way I can have all the information in one place. So what is Adventure? Adventure is a text adventure game that's programmed in Python. And basically the game loop consists of you venture into the dungeon and you either encounter an enemy or a merchant. Enemy encounters, what happens is each round use an item in your inventory and then the opponent attacks. If you reach no health, you die. If you kill the enemy, you just go to the next encounter. If you encounter a merchant, you give them any item in your inventory and then they'll give you some supplies back. And this just repeats until you summon the final boss. And then the game is over. But you can keep playing afterwards if you want. So you start the game with 40 HP, 30 magic MP, a sword, a dart, and a healing potion. So the fact that you start with magic is important to the strategy, which I'll get into later. But there is no maximum for your HP or your MP. It can go as high as you want. So because of that, some strategies become a bit more viable. So basic weapons. We have the sword, which is just you can use it every turn if you want. Consistent, you start the game with it. 3 to 5 damage, 4 on average. The dart, that's consumable. It's a one-time use. It deals a number 2 to 3 times the number 3 to 4. So minimum 6, max 12. Average 8.75, which is actually the highest out of all these weapons. But it's consumable, so it balances out. Then the Fire Tome uses 7 MP, deals 6 to 8, or 6 to 10, 8 on average. Ice Tome, 5 to 12 damage, 8.5 on average, uses 8 magic instead. And then the handgun and the minigun both use magazines. They only use one magazine whenever you fire the weapon. The handgun has a 75% accuracy and deals 8 to 14 damage. So on average, if you take the accuracy into account, it deals 8.25 on average. And the minigun fires 4 bullets. Each one has a 2/3 accuracy, and each one that hits deals 2 to 4 damage. So that deals 8 on average. So all of the weapons are very similar in damage output. They're very balanced in that way. And then the consumables. So we have our healing potion, which takes a number 3 to 5 times another number 3 to 5, heals you that much. It's 16 on average. Water heals a number 2 to 4 times another 2 to 4, average 9 health. And it also always cleanses your status. So, as I mentioned in the video, you can only have... The way the status system works is it's just a single variable that tracks what your status is at any given time. So, first off, statuses never go away unless you remove them with like an item or an effect. So there's no way to get rid of them other than applying a different effect or using water, for example, to cleanse it. And also, if you get another status effect for any reason, all previous status effects are lost. So water, it cleanses your status, so it just sets it to none. And if you were on fire, it heals an additional 5 health. So in that case, it would heal 14 on average. Then your magic potion restores 3 to 5 times 3 to 5, 16 on average magic. Your regen gives you the regen status, which heals you 3 to 4 on average 3 health each round. The Ironhide potion halves all the damage you take, all of it. Well, yeah. It should be noted that because you attack and use your items before the enemy does, it's possible that you use an item to change your status. For example, you drink a regen potion, and then the opponent immediately uses a bad status effect on you, like poison or fire. In that case, you do not get the positive benefit of the regen status effect, because it was overridden before the end of round, and all potion effects happen at end of round. So potions that are statuses are actually pretty badly nerfed because of this. Then there's also the package. The package is an item that you're given by the mailman merchant. Basically, he works just like the skeleton merchant. You give him an item, but he always gives you a package. Package has a lot of different effects. Each of these effects has the listed probability. All of these could happen, or none of these could happen. So there's a 1/2 chance for it to contain a healing potion, so it puts a healing potion in your inventory, for it to deal 10 damage to an opponent, for it to give you the effect of water, so it just heals you the 9 and then cleanses your status and heals you additional if you're on fire. There's a 1/4 chance it contains another package, a 1/4 chance it contains a handgun and a magazine, and a 1/4 chance that you're given the fire status effect. Now, the way that it happens in the effect description, the fire status happens before the water, so if both happens, it sets you on fire, and then it gets rid of the fire from the water. And then there's a 1/8 chance for both of you instantly die, and the enemy instantly dies. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. The description of what happens when the enemy dies is that a YouTuber jumps out of the package, and it was so cringe that it kills the enemy. I'm not messing with you. Actually, that might be the one where you instantly die. I forget which one. Anyways, there are 3 special consumable items. The magic mirror instantly ends the encounter. You don't get any rewards. It just ends the encounter. And you just leave instantly. So this is something you could use if you're in a fight, like a boss fight that's going really poorly, and you just want to skedaddle out of there. Then the Mystic Tablet instantly kills the enemy, and it summons the Muttering Cultist after the encounter, which will be right away because it instantly kills the enemy. And then the Dragon Dream summons the imaginary dragon after the encounter. So yeah, those are the 3 special items. The Magic Mirror is dropped by both of the bosses, which doesn't entirely make sense to me, but I'll get into that later. Then we'll go over the 5 basic enemies. Those are the skeleton, slime, giant rat, giant snake, and the wizard. Skeleton, 10 HP, deals 2 to 4 damage. That's 3 on average. The slime, 8 HP, a bit more damage though, 3 to 4 damage, 3.5 on average. The giant rat has more health, 15 health, 1 to 5 damage each round. That's 3 on average. The giant snake, another 15 health guy. For some reason, when I I did all the doodles for this slideshow. For some reason, I gave the snake arms. I'm not sure why, but it looks like he's about to box someone now. He deals 1 to 3 damage, so his boxing technique evidently isn't that good. But he does have a 1/3 chance to poison you. And poison is a status that deals 1 to 2 damage. That's 1.5 on average each round. And the wizard has 10 HP. He has 3 different attacks. The The first one has a 1/3 chance of happening. It deals 1 to 2 damage. That's 1.5 on average. It doesn't have any other effect. It has a 1/6 chance. Basically what happens is the roll is a 6-sided die, and depending on the results, it does one of these attacks. If it rolls a 3, it deals 3 damage, and it heals itself for 3. If it rolls a 4 to 6, it deals that much damage, so 5 on average, and it sets you on fire, which deals 3 to 5 damage each round. So I think you can tell which of these enemies is stronger than the other ones. Now this is the loot that an enemy drops. So whenever you defeat an enemy, it goes through each of these items. It rolls the probability, and if you get it, you get the item. Because of this, it's possible that you could get all of the items listed, or you could get none of them. I calculated out the chance of you getting nothing is 0.5%. I don't think this has ever happened to me, but it has happened to me in a different circumstance. So dart, healing potion, magic potion, water, and a magazine all have a 1/2 chance. Remember, the magazine is just the consumable item used for your ranged weapons. Regen and iron skin potions have a 1/3 chance. All the weapons, the fire tome, the ice tome, the handgun, and the minigun, all have a 1/6 chance, and dragon dreams have a 1/7 chance. Now, for the skeleton merchant, he has less items. He doesn't offer the weapons. He only gives you supplies. So all of the supplies probabilities are the same as the drop chance for the enemies, but he also has a 1/5 chance to give you the Mystic Tablet. Remember, that's the Muttering Cultist summoning item. Because he has less items, the chance of you getting nothing from him is 1.1%, which has happened to me. It really sucks when that happens. But you always trade. You always get a bunch of items, and it's great. And especially, you really want that Mystic Tablet, because it's super rare. So, on to the Muttering Cultist. So, he's got 30 HP. Remember, you summon him with the tablet. His attacks work similarly to the wizard. He rolls a 6-sided die. Half the time, he does literally nothing. Nothing happens. He doesn't do anything. All right? Then each of the other attacks is an equal probability, 1/6 of the time. So, one of them, he heals himself for 5 to 10 health. That's 7.5 on average. Then he has another attack. He deals 10 to 29 damage. That's 19.5 on average. That's a big chunk of damage. That is the most damage out of any enemy in the game. And he gives the player 20 to 60 magic. That's 40 on average. So he deals a lot of damage to you, but he gives you magic, which is great because you can use that to cast your spells. That fuels into his last attack, which that he drains all of the player's magic. So your magic goes directly to 0. Doesn't matter what it was at, goes right to 0. And he deals damage to you equal to 1/4 of the drained magic. So if you had 100 magic in your pool, it's all gone. You're taking 25 damage. If you defeat him, he drops the normal enemy drops, in addition to the lightning staff, which uses 10 magic and deals 2 to 4 times 2 to 4 times 2 to 4 damage, which is 27 on average. Minimum is 8, max is 64, so it's pretty big range, and he also gives you the magic mirror. And now, the imaginary dragon. This is how you're going to beat the game if you beat this guy. So, on his turn, well, he starts with 50 HP to start with. On his turn, he always deals 5 to 10 damage, 7.5 on average, every time. And he sets the player on fire 1/3 of the time. Remember, fire deals 3 to 5 damage, that's 4 on average each round. And if you defeat him, you'll get your normal enemy drops. You'll get the Dragon Fire Tome. It uses 10 magic. It sets you on fire. And it deals 48 times 48 damage. So it's 36 on average, minimum 16, max 64. And also get the magic mirror. So the overall strategy of the game, The wizard is the most powerful basic enemy by far. If you're fighting the wizard, you need to kill him as fast as possible. Listen, I'm not joking. There have been so many runs where I start the game at 40 health. Everything's looking great. I encounter the wizard in the first fight and I die. Because early in the game, you're not going to have a lot of ways to cleanse your status effects. And the wizard will apply burn half of the time. He's applying burn half of the time. That's more often than any other enemy that he's applying a status effect. And burn is the most powerful status effect in the game. So he is dealing a lot of damage. In addition, when he does the burn attack, he's dealing 4 to 6 damage plus the damage from the burn. That is a lot of damage. He also has the attack where he deals 3 damage and heals himself. That is super brutal, especially if he does that multiple times in a row. Because if you're in the early game, you don't have the damage output to race that. Remember, your sword deals 3 to 5 damage, that's 4 on average. So if he's healing 3 each turn and dealing 3 to you, he's going to kill you really quick, especially if you're also burning, because you don't start the game with any way of getting rid of status effects. So if you're fighting against the wizard, use your darts, use your magic weapons, use your ranged weapons, kill him as fast as possible. The giant snake is the only other enemy that can status you, but it's not as dangerous because 1, it has a very low damage output, and poison is not that bad. It only deals a couple damage each round. Now the other enemy is literally posed no threat to you. You can use these combats against easy enemies to heal up with regen potions, and to use all of your health and magic potions. In fact, there's an exploit where if you're against an enemy, you can keep using a magazine item in order to have the fight go on forever. And if you're fighting against a skeleton, you can probably the amount you're taking and the amount you're healing on is equal, but you could, in theory, heal infinitely through that. That's not really a useful strategy because statistically nothing would happen, but I digress. So during these combats against the easy enemies, you're going to want to have a regen potion going so that you can heal up. And you're going to want to use all of your health and magic potions. Remember, because there's no limit, you just want to get as much as possible. However, if you're going to fight the Muttering Cultist, you do not want to have a large magic pool going in. Because if you go in with like 120 magic, you're toast. You're going to be taking like 30 damage and losing all of that. So make sure you don't have all that magic going into the cultist. And also, please don't use any of your good weapons on the easy encounters. Just use your sword. It's consistent. It doesn't take any resources. It deals a decent amount of damage. So use your sword on the easy encounters. The Ice Tome is the best reusable basic weapon. Magic is easier to find than ammunition. You might think that that's not the case because in all circumstances, MP and like magic potions and magazines have the exact same drop chance, but I'll get into that later. It's because if we go back, so the basic weapons, the handgun, minigun, and the fire and ice tomes basically have similar damage outputs, and the fire and ice tome have very similar magic uses. All right, so basically, we're saying that a magazine is the same resources as 8 magic. All right, that is how the weapons are balanced. However, if we look at the consumables, a magic potion gives you 16 magic on average, meaning a single magic potion enables you to do 2 attacks on average, while a magazine only allows you to do 1 attack. And because magazines and magic potions drop at equal rates, what ends up happening is you are going to have much more magic than you're going to have magazines in order to do attacks with. So because of that, the Ice Tome is very resource efficient in that sense. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't use the other weapons, for example, because they have a similar damage output. But the Ice Tome does have the highest base damage output. That's not the dart. The dart is better in terms of damage, but because of how resource efficient it is, it's one of the best weapons. And also, you're going to want to save your water. I'll go into this later, but remember that you can use your regen and your iron skin potions to override negative status effects. And you want to save your water for a specific circumstance that I'll be going into later. But if I had to give any tips to new players, it's like just avoid the wizard at all costs. Now onto the Muttering Cultist strategy. So if you get the opportunity to fight the cultist, you definitely should. The Mystic Tablet as an item is super rare because there are 7 total encounters that you can encounter normally. 1 is the Mailman, 5 are enemies, 1 is the Skeleton Merchant. Skeleton Merchant has a 1 in 5 chance on giving you the tablet if you fight him or if you trade with him. That means on average, you're going to have to go through 35 floors in order to get this stupid tablet. You're going to have gotten the Dragon Dreams way, way earlier. So this guy is super rare, and because of that, and because the Lightning Staff deals so much damage, like if we go back and look, the Lightning Staff deals 27 damage on average for basically the same magic as any of the magic weapons. That's 3 times the more than 3 times the damage of any other weapon. So it makes the final boss really easy. Now, when you're fighting him, first thing, you'll need plenty of darts and magazines. Because he can drain all of your magic, you cannot rely on your magic weapons. You need to have your ranged weapons and your darts available to use to fight him. Especially because, first off, he can drain your magic, so you got no magic. You can't use those weapons. But also, because the other reason is that I completely forgot what I was going to say. I'll probably remember it. Whatever. Oh, yes, it's because you can't just rely on your sword in this fight. You cannot. I know he only starts at 30 HP, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's basically 8 sword attacks. Remember, he has his healing attack, and that healing attack heals 7.5 health on average. 7.5 health is more than the average damage of the sword, and it's only a little bit less than the average damage of any of the normal weapons, which do 8 or more. So he can heal himself really fast, and if he uses his healing attack multiple times in succession and you don't have good weapons to use against him, you're cooked. There's nothing you can do. The best strategy against this guy is the Iron Skin Potion. Now, the Regen Potion is the best against all the little guys because they really don't deal a lot of damage, so the Iron Skin Potion doesn't really do anything. But against this guy, it's key. First off, his main attack, where he drains all your magic, it's going to half the damage you take from that. So, for example, if you had 64 magic, you're only taking 8 damage instead of 16. That's great. You really got to half the damage you're taking from this guy, because he doesn't attack very often. Half the time he's doing nothing. A sixth of the time he's just healing himself. But those 2 attacks he has deal so much damage. Especially the one where he gives you magic. 10 to 29 damage. That's more than the final boss. So he can deal an insane amount of damage. That's why you need to have your Iron Skin Potion. And also, he cannot status you at all. He has no status attacks. So you don't need to keep worrying about resetting your status or whatever. You can just drink an Iron Skin Potion, forget about it. You're good. However, when you do have magic in this fight, you need to spend it. Alright? If you have magic because he gave it to you using his Lightning Bolt attack, you gotta use it. If you don't use it, not only will the boss steal it, but you'll be dealt more damage. Alright? So if you're not using that magic because for some reason you're keeping using your sword or whatever, you are also basically wasting resources because if he uses the attack where he drains your magic, boom, it's gone. But also you're taking additional damage because he's draining more magic. So this fight is just a balancing act of making sure you have your ranged weapons so you can attack him consistently when you don't have magic, and also having magic weapons to use your magic when you do have magic available. And also just please never use a magic potion in this fight. The amount of times I've used a magic potion only to have my magic immediately drained and take additional damage is too much. And now, final boss strategy. Imaginary Dragon. Weapons to use. If you have the Lightning Staff, it makes the fight easy. It's possible to one-tap the boss with the Lightning Staff. It's happened to me before. It's really good. However, because as I mentioned before, the Muttering Cultist is incredibly rare, I would not wait around to get the Lightning Staff. It will take way, way too long. Other than that, the three best items to use, Ice Tome, Handgun, and Dart. I would say either of the ranged weapons that use ammo are good. It's fine. Now, remember, Imaginary Dragon is very simple. He always deals 5 to 10 damage, and a third of the time he sets you on fire. So, whenever you're burning, use your water. I know water might have seemed useless at the start when I was talking about it. It's like, oh, it heals for less, and it cleanses your status, and if you're burning, it heals you for more, but that doesn't seem like it would come up more often. It comes up all the time in this fight. Alright, you're getting burned a third of the time. You want to use that water as much as you can, because burn damage is just free damage that the dragon is getting. And being able to get that additional 5 HP out of a heal with the water, that's pretty big. Because this is basically just a war of attrition. This is just a resource management game. Second, or third, I guess. Don't bother using regen or Iron Skin potions. First off, Iron Skin potion, not that effective. It is more effective than the regen potion because you're halving your 7.5 damage you're taking. But if you think about it, having the 7.5 damage you're taking, you're instead going to be taking like 3.75 damage each round, if I did the math right. Yeah, 3.75 damage each round. Which is just a little bit more than you're healing from the regen potion. So the Iron Skin potion doesn't actually have that much effect because the Iron Skin potion is not going to impact burn damage at all. Because a third of the time, he's going to burn you immediately after you use your status item. And you literally just wasted your turn. Because if you get burned on the same turn, you get no benefit from positive statuses. So if you run out of water and you're on fire, it's not worth using your potions unless you're out of weapons and you're out of resources. In that case, your only chance is to try and hope that you don't get burned and that you're able to finish them off before you die. Packages can be useful but are inconsistent. You can get a high roll and instantly kill the dragon. That's awesome. That's spectacular. That's amazing. But it could also just insta-kill you. It has an equal chance of insta-killing you. I don't know why I implemented this item this way when I was in middle school. It's stupid, alright? However, a much more consistent cheese method is you could just use the Mystic Tablet to instantly kill the boss. Like, guaranteed. I don't know why I programmed the Mystic Tablet to kill the enemy, and I don't know why I didn't think to check what the enemy was that you're killing. But no, it just sets the enemy's HP to negative 9,999. It just kills it, no matter what. So that is a cheese strat that you can use. I don't like doing that. I've never done that, but you could do that. So, yeah. Alright. Now, my thoughts. So, it's clear the middle school me knew math because all the weapons are pretty balanced in terms of damage output, but I did not know game design. For example, as I talked about before, the difference between magic and ranged weapons, meaning that magic weapons are so much more resource efficient than magazines. Second, what's the deal with packages? Like, I know that I made the mailman because of like one of my friends but because that was like his nickname or whatever. But the package effect is just so like, I don't even understand. Like, first off, I would just get rid of the fact that you instantly die or the enemy instantly dies. That's just stupid. The amount of times that I've opened a package only to instantly die is just terrible. It's the worst. But I mean, yeah, and like all the effects are just so random. I kind of wish if instead there were just like a table of things that it could do and it didn't have a chance to do all of this. What else? Because a third of the basic enemies pose literally no threat to you, the stakes in the game feel very low if you're not fighting against the two, either boss or the wizard. Like, the wizard, I cannot stress this enough. He sounds like he's a pushover. He's not. He's not. So, I also don't like that both boss summons are random drops and that the Mystic Tablet is stupid rare. Because the Dragon Dreams have a 1 in 7 chance of dropping from any enemy, and 5 out of 7 encounters are on a floor are enemies. Let me math this out. So it would be 5/7 divided by 7. 49 over 5. It would take you 10 rooms on average, pretty much, in order to get the item that you're looking for. Which can be a while, especially if you keep getting really unlucky. So, if I was to change anything, I'd make it so that it's guaranteed to spawn at a point. Either that or you're guaranteed to get the item. And also, the enemies never get harder. So, after a point, the game kind of gets easy when you have, like, all of the resources you could ever want. And also, duplicate weapons get really annoying. Your inventory gets so clogged up in this game. There's no way to sort the inventory. There's no way to get rid of all the junk you have except by randomly bumping into the merchants. So you just end up with like multiple copies of the same weapon, and there's no reason why you'd need multiple copies of the same weapon. So they just end up sitting in your inventory, and eventually you end up with like 50 items in your inventory, and it's just a mess. I do like that the only consistent source of damage, which is the sword, is very weak, and you start with it. But because it's the only reliable source of consistent damage, it's always useful. I like that. I like that there's no upgrade to the sword. You'll always use it. It's always in your 0 inventory slot. Pretty nice. The status system is a consequence of my lack of programming ability at the time. I didn't know how to like really do something like have a system where all the values would like tick down each round. But I kind of like the status system as is. It's interesting, but it can definitely be really annoying, especially because if you keep getting status, there's nothing you can really do. Like you can't really use the regen or iron skin against the final boss. But I do like that every single item in the game has like its use, maybe except the magic mirror. But every item is useful. Like all the weapons are like pretty useful. All the potions are useful. The status effect potions, Iron Skin potion useful against the cultist, and the regen potions useful against like regular enemies. So it's nice that all the items have their use. Why does the Mystic Tablet kill the enemy? It doesn't check if it's a boss. So the Mystic Tablet was actually and the Muttering Cultist was actually added as like a update later. I actually added that at the end during winter break of 2018. I added that. So I think I didn't really consider the fact that because it kills the enemy, you could instantly use it to kill the boss, or maybe that was supposed to be an intended interaction. I don't know. It seems kind of dumb. Especially because if I remember correctly, based on how it's coded, if you use the tablet to kill either of the bosses, because of how the code is structured, you wouldn't actually encounter the boss next. You would just go back to regular encounters. So yeah, whatever. The item bartering system with the merchants is interesting. It helps deal with duplicate items. But I wish there was a bit more, I guess, rhyme or reason to it. Like, there's most of the time, if I don't have a duplicate weapon, I'm just giving up a magazine, which feels like no cost at all. It'd be nice if, depending on how valuable the item was, you got better stuff in return. And now here's what I would change while keeping the core experience. First off, I would rebalance the magic weapons to increase their mana cost. And also that you start with 0 magic. Because you start with 30 magic, magic weapons are also super good at the start of the game, because you don't start with any magazines or anything like that. So you're basically starting with a bonus like 3 uses for any magic weapon, which is really nice. I would remove magazines at an item, just make them an ammo stat. There's no reason they had to be their own item. I don't know why I programmed them to be an item. Because of their implementation as an item, the code for the ranged weapons is really annoying and obnoxious, because it has to loop through your entire inventory, because I didn't realize it was a find function. But whatever. I would just make it its own ammo stat. I would make the magic mirror a skeleton merchant item, so that because it's not very useful after you defeat the boss. The reason you'd want the magic mirror is to get out of the boss fight if you're having a bad time and you're going to die. I'd stop the mystic tablet from killing the opponent. I'd probably change it so that it acts like the magic mirror. It just ends the encounter, doesn't give you the drops. I think that's what I initially meant it to do. Remove packages killing you and killing the enemy instantly. That's just stupid. Add campfire locations. So these would be a random encounter just like anything else, where all it is it's just an opportunity for you to use as many items as you want. Currently, you can only use items during fights, which is really weird. So this would give you an opportunity of a place where you could just drink all your potions, just drink them up. I'd change the 3 easy enemies to be more interesting. I've actually gone and recoded these versions in a copy of the original file. What I did was I made it so that the skeleton dealt additional damage. The slime, if you have a lot of magic, it will slowly drain your magic as it's attacking you. And the rat, if you have a lot of items in your inventory, it will steal your items. So, a bit more interesting. I made it so that the imaginary dragon spawns automatically on floor 20. And there's a campfire automatically before that, so you have some time to gear up. And I also made it so that the merchant automatically gives you the tablet on floor 10. I changed the imaginary dragon fight slightly, and I added enemy scaling after you beat the final boss on floor 20. And I fixed some bugs that had been existing in the game. So here's the reimagined dragon. I changed it so it has multiple attacks. Half the time it will do a standard attack, 5 to 10 damage. A third of the time it will deal 2 to 4 damage and set you on fire. So I reduced this because the dragon could keep getting high rolls where it would deal damage and set you on fire each round, and it's basically just getting extra damage. So now when I set you on fire, it deals less damage. And it also has another attack where it heals itself for 5 to 10 health. If you're on fire, it cleanses your status and heals an additional 5 health. So this is more incentive to get rid of the fire debuff. I'm still not entirely happy with this reimagining of the fight. I do like the name, but I feel like I could think of something better for the final ability. Who knows? We'll see. Um, it'll keep the drops. I like the Dragonfire Tome. Double the magic use. And the Dragon's Tongue is a new weapon. It's just a ranged weapon. It similar to the Dragonfire Tome. It sets the user on fire, and it deals the same amount of damage on average. And that's the end of my slideshow. I think overall, Adventure is a pretty good game. It has some pretty big flaws, but overall, I'm very impressed with what I made at the time, and I don't know. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good one. Bye bye.